Hello everyone, this is part 14 of What If Naruto Leaves Konoha and Awakens Lava and Boil release, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Azugakure, Village Gate. Naruto and Mai stood next to one another facing a large gathering of civilians and shinobi. It had been a few days since receiving the message to meet in Kumo and the two were ready to head out. Sad that their Azukage was leaving them so soon, the people came to the gate to wish Naruto a safe trip. The two waved at the people before them and watched as Ao came up to the two of them. The man had once again been left in charge while the two powerful shinobi left the village and they had a few parting orders for him. Ao, I have a few messages that I wish sent out to some minor countries that might be willing to engage in trade with us. I also wish to have you go over and finalize my new ideas for our ranking system and do your best to speed up the construction of the academy facilities. Naruto listed off what he could think of in his head to the man who dutifully nodded in acknowledgement. Understood, I'll get it done. Mai chose to merely wave goodbye to the people as she waited for Naruto to finish up. I'm sorry for leaving you all so soon, but I promise we will only be gone a few days. Ao is a very capable ninja that I have much confidence in, for it was he who was able to lead the loyalists through the rebellion. Now please keep us in your thoughts as we forge a better future for Azugakure. The people cheered Naruto and Mai as they waved once again and walked through the gate and jumped off into the wilderness. Ao turned around and watched as the people dispersed. They were still getting used to living in the city. The civilian council had done well in assigning everyone jobs and so far, except for the trade problem, the people were content. The one-eyed man headed back towards the shinobi district of town where a second building was being created. It was one that not even Naruto knew about. It was to be a surprise for when he came back. Ao went past the construction site and into his nearby apartment. It was where he had been assigned to live and it was a quaint place. He moved over to his desk and unfurled the scroll Naruto had given a few days ago to review. It contained the new ranking system as well as new lesson plans for the shinobi under his command. Let's take a look at these ranks. Ao. These ranks will range from academy student to myself as the Azukage. I have left the general ranks of Junin, Chunin, and Genin alone because of simplicity and effectiveness. The real changes come in the form of specialized divisions of Black Ops, or Anbu. As a fellow hunter ninja, I'm sure you can critique this better than anyone. Academy Student, Genin, Chunin, Junin, Anbu Black Ops, Anbu Beast Tamers, Anbu Hunter Corps, Anbu General. The Azu Hurricane. Azukage. I will discuss more of the new units, including the Azu Hurricanes later upon my return. For now, please use the rest of the information provided to help you better understand the new ranks. Uniforms for Anbu can also be found below. They are prototypes, of course. Ao scratched his head and thought about the new ranks with bare confusion. He knew Naruto was a genius. Hell, the people chose him for Shodai Azukage, but to make such bold additions, he must have had quite a plan. What the hell are these Azu Hurricanes? Ao just shrugged. Naruto would explain it to him when he came back. In the meantime, the temporary leader of Azu was just going to have to deal with a lot of paperwork until then. 000. Kumogakure. Reikage Building. Naruto and Mai appeared in a yellow and red flash, courtesy of Naruto's Hiraishin. He looked to his left and saw that Mai was still with him, although she looked a bit queasy. Naruto smiled at his success. It was the first time he had brought anyone with him with his father's technique. Looks like we made it, he announced with much fervor. Mai looked at him and gave an uneasy smile. The ride wasn't very enjoyable. It may have only taken a few moments, but still, it feels like morning sickness all over again, she thought with a grimace as she clutched her stomach. Yes. Wonderful. Let's find this meeting room, shall we? Mai suggested before they began to walk towards the supposed meeting room. It was not long before they were stopped by Kumo Anbu. Halt. State your business, called out one of the elite Black Ops. His hand was already on his katana from his suspicion. Who are these people? The woman there looks like the Azukage, but where are her robes and who is this man? I've never seen this village before. He thought as he analyzed the new arrivals. They were an unknown group that he had no intention of allowing any farther. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and this is my fiancée Mei Uzumaki. She was the Godai Mizukage and I am the Shodai Azukage. We are here for the 5 Alliance meeting to see if we may join it. The Anbu pair looked at one another with pure shock hidden behind their masks. The Azukage. I have never heard of this country. How am I to know you aren't lying? Asked the leader of the two. He was incredibly suspicious of Naruto. Mei sighed and stepped forward. She was getting tired of all the distractions. She wanted to get the meeting over with and head home. Her pregnancy was getting to the point where it wasn't a good idea to move around so much. This puny little man before her was blocking entrance to her fiancé and her Azukage and she would not allow that. Excuse me. As my fiancé said before, I am the previous Godai Mizukage of the village hidden in the mist. You will allow us through now or allow us to speak with your superiors. The Anbu somewhat relaxed the guard but was still confused. If what you say is true, Mizukage-sama, why do you call yourself the previous Mizukage and not the current? You are still in power, are you not? Mei sighed out loud and shook her head much to the surprise of the Kumo shinobi. That is a very important piece of info we must pass on to your Raikage for this meeting. Now will you allow us through or not? The Anbu looked at one another and his partner gave a slight shake of the head. The man turned back to the two Uzumaki to relay the verdict. I'm sorry but, he was interrupted when a loud voice boomed down the hallway they were standing in. Naruto and the others turned to see a few Kinkaku squad members coming towards them. Naruto, what's up? It's me Tamura. The one in the lead spoke up, identifying himself as the Kinkaku captain Naruto had fought alongside many times. Naruto smiled at his arrival and hoped it would mean they could get some safe passage to the meeting hall. The Anbu nodded their heads in respect towards the hunters and waved their hand towards the couple. Sorry for the troublemakers here, sir, we were just attempting to remove them so. Tamura scoffed at the man and pushed past him, his fellow hunters moving through to the Uzumaki as well. Tamura swung an arm around Naruto's shoulder and pointed at the teen, making it seem as if they had known each other forever. Are you guys crazy? This guy is the Azukage, right? And that is his fiancée Mei Uzumaki, the Godai Mizukage. Why the hell aren't you letting him through to the meeting? Are you trying to insult one of our allies? The Anbu gulped. They had not known that Azu was such a great ally to Kumo. No sir. Please forgive our rudeness. The Anbu scratched their heads embarrassingly and bowed in apology. Naruto mouthed his thanks to Tamura and walked past the guards with the Kinkaku as their new escorts. The 5 shinobi walked through the hallways in silence until they arrived at the doors being guarded by more Anbu. This is where we part ways, good luck in there Naruto. Tamura patted him on the shoulder before he and his Kinkaku disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto and Mei looked at one another and smiled, they had confidence in one another. They pushed past the 2 guards and entered the room to find the other 4 Kage waiting impatiently for someone, the Mizukage. All turned to greet the new arrivals but were shocked to see Naruto in a Kage outfit and Mei standing next to him in strange clothing. Naruto stayed silent as he looked at the assembly with a veiled eye, his hat tipped down to hide his face but show his eyes so he could observe. Gaara and Temari were in the Suna seat, both looked quite surprised at his arrival. And his attendant stood at the forefront of the table, she was calm while he was both shocked and annoyed. Tsunade and Kakashi had to look behind them to see Naruto but both were caught in surprise at his outfit. Onoki and his Junin bodyguard looked at the two with appraising eyes, not revealing any surprise as they did not share a close bond as the other Kage had with the boy. Hello everyone. It's been a few weeks since we last saw each other. I hope you will forgive us barging in so suddenly like this but we have much to discuss. Naruto announced to the group before him and moved over to take a seat near Gaara that was reserved for the Mizukage. Mei stood behind the chair like the rest of the bodyguards. He set his hat down on the table and loosened his robes somewhat to avoid overheating himself. Not that I'm unhappy to see you Naruto. But what is the meaning of this? Asked the boy, he wanted to know why he had on that outfit. To explain why I am in this outfit, it would be best to tell you the worst of the news first. The bloodlines have been forced to flee from Kiri due to a coup. They succeeded in overthrowing Mei. Everyone turned their eyes to the woman in question and she nodded her head in acceptance of the true answer. Yes, that is correct. After returning from the summit, we found that over half of the shinobi population loyal to me had been K and the rest were on the run from rebels. We were able to save the Uzumaki and other clans from me and moved them to our new home, Azugako. Naruto is the Shodai Azukage and is welcomed by our people as such. The information was so much to take in for the 4Kage and Mifune, even Gaara's eyes widened in amazement. Quote. Wow, Temari muttered, surprised by the turn of events. Onoki huffed and smirked, shaking his head slowly back and forth. Darn youngsters, always wanting to show up their elders. Why, if I may ask, is this Naruto boy the Azukage when they have the God-Ime Azukage as their potential leader? Mei once again stepped up to the plate and patted her stomach lightly to bring attention to it. Her smile radiated across the room. I am pregnant with Naruto's child and it would not be right for me to assume the position of the Azukage by endangering the baby. Besides, after the Kiri debacle I no longer wish to be a Kage. Naruto-kun has so much potential as a leader that I thought it best for him to take charge. The people are also behind him as I said before, he may not be at many of your experience levels but he surely is Kage material. Everyone's eyes, especially Tsunade's, widened upon hearing that she would be a mother. Tears began to form in the older woman's eyes as she moved up to wipe them away, a smile had splayed across her face. I'm so happy for them, they had something I could not. Now I get to be a grandmother as well, this is the best news I have heard in quite some time. Congratulations, Naruto. Gaara complimented him, it was simple but very much appreciated by the blonde. Thanks Gaara. He patted his nearby friend on the shoulder and felt a hand touch his own, he looked up to see Mei smiling at him, he smiled back. I see. That is quite a sad yet stunning series of events. I take it that your village has had some difficulty in its creation. Or asked the Azukage but merely received a negative shake of the head. No, actually the village was in peak condition when we arrived, the problem we have is securing trade contracts with other nations. We have no treaties to allow us to trade and it is hurting our people, they need consumers' goods and materials to have need of jobs and other things. Our shinobi corps is relatively disorganized and is in need of an overhaul to which I will be focusing on upon my return. I realize though that what matters the most is that the major nations recognize us as a country, so I would like to ask for your help in speaking with your daimyo. Any help would be much appreciated. Naruto said, hoping to get everything out in the open with the other Kage. It was now their turn to talk amongst themselves with the guards and themselves to see what their opinion on the matter would be. Naruto attempted to guess and gauge their reactions to see if he was correct. My guess is that Tsunade will acknowledge me as will Gaara and Onoki though. I'm not so sure. Then again, it all depends on their country's leaders, I have no say on that. The first to speak was Gaara who had his hands linked together in front of his face, his elbows on the table as leaned forward. While I'm sure this must be one of the most impulsive and insane things you have ever embarked upon Naruto. I understand what it means to be young and in charge. I will do what I can to help. As Kazekage I acknowledge your village and your place as Kage. Naruto smiled and silently thanked his friend. Gaara merely smiled and nodded. Was up next. Naruto couldn't tell what he would say because of the surprisingly stern face that was set upon his features. Naruto, you should have come before me sooner with this. Of course I will help you and your people, if not because I acknowledge you as a village but for the pure sake of a humanitarian effort. My attendant has already ordered thousands of pounds of protein to be sent there immediately, my people will whip your own into shape. I promise you that. A's face cracked a smile and couldn't help but laugh along with Naruto and Mei as they waited for the last two Kage. Onoki brought his small hand up to his mouth and coughed, bringing quiet for him to speak. I have little knowledge of you boy unlike these other Kage. In fact, I feel quite outnumbered by that haha. But, a Kage must make tough decisions that might affect his village and I'm not sure if at your age you can handle that responsibility. The Kazekage here has shown some ability in that yet all I see in you is impulsiveness and being rude. Until I see some maturity, Iwa will not acknowledge the presence of Azu. He stated with finality and the quietness stayed until Konoha was brought in. Tsunade was frowning, she did not like her decision but could not help but see it as the only answer. Both her and Kakashi had struggled to agree but in the end they came to the same conclusion, Naruto was not ready for such a position. Naruto watched with a hopeful yet knowing visage as she stood up and looked at him with a serious but very disheartened gaze. Naruto, for the longest time I have known you, I always saw you as a knucklehead ninja. My impression of you since then has changed somewhat. I see you as an honest and strong young man. However, my ninja beliefs are different than your own. It must have to do with me being too old. Your age might not define you as a shinobi, but there are still limits. Even your late father was in his 20s when he took up the oath. You, on the other hand, are barely 18, and yet you are to be a father in a cage. I don't think you can handle this. As the Hokage, I do not recognize your position as Azukage or the country of Azu. I'm sorry. She sat back down and held a hand to her forehead to shade her eyes so as not to look into his. She knew he would be shocked and even disappointed. May out of all was the most surprised and angered, whispering a heated yet ill threat to the woman. Won't be seeing you at the wedding. The blonde woman's eyes widened and she looked up at May, who merely glared right at her. She could not hold her gaze and looked down from the red head, too ashamed to be defiant. Naruto gulped but did nothing about the tension. It was not the right time. Naruto nodded his head after her speech. He had not been expecting it, but he could see her points. He turned to the last one and could already tell by the man's trademark scowl that he was not in favor of it either. I must agree with the Hokage and Tsuchikage. You are much too young for a position of kage. I cannot imagine why the people chose you, but it does not matter. The Land of Iron does not acknowledge the presence of the Azukage. However, we do recognize Azu as an independent civilian state with a shinobi arm. We will send some contractors and supplies to you. It will be limited though. Naruto was surprised at the turn of events with the man's ruling and nodded in thanks to the samurai general. As the vote stands, it is 3-2 in favor of not acknowledging the Azukage. Therefore, we must bar you from joining the alliance as a shinobi leader and a kage. The individual nations, however, may still make their own dealings with you. A's attendant announced. She had been against acknowledging Azu, but in the end the Raikage made the decision for himself. Naruto sighed and nodded. He slowly stood up and placed his hat back over his head from its place on the table. Everyone watched as he tipped his head to the assembly and began to walk out with May in tow. He paused at the door and turned around one last time. An air of seriousness surrounded him as he cast a hard gaze back at the table. One last thing. The Rokudai Mizukage is now our arch-enemy, Madara Uchiha. You have been warned. Naruto took May into his arms and disappeared in a flash of yellow. It left the other kage to scramble amongst each other over the new information. 000. Azugakure. Because of the Hiraishin, the time it took for Naruto and May to go to and from Kumo and Azu was seen drastically. In what they thought would take many days only took a mere few hours. A few people were walking along the cobblestone streets when they saw a brilliant flash of light and their Azukage appear with his fiancée. Their eyes shined with surprise and happiness as they flocked to greet the new arrivals. Naruto and May were soon swamped with the new arrivals but kept their cool and greeted everyone. Azukage-sama. Naruto turned his head to see Ao coming towards him with a few other shinobi of his. They landed from a rooftop and quickly bowed. Yes, what is it, Ao? Have things been alright while I was away? Ao looked up at him and nodded to his question. The people had been well behaved for the morning he was gone. It has been fine, sir. I merely wished to greet you and alert you of a few updates. They have to do with both the village itself and our foreign relations. Naruto nodded and gently pushed through the crowd with his shinobi. May decided to allow Naruto to handle this himself and made her way home. Ao led Naruto to a building he didn't remember. It was a silo-shaped office that had the Azu symbol and went high into the sky, showing off its jet black walls. He wanted to inquire about it but just ignored the urge for more pressing matters. They walked inside and went up a few flights of winding stairs to the top and entered an office. A window view of the city was in the back behind a desk and a nice cushioned chair. He looked left and right to find pictures both he and May had taken together before and after their time living in Kiri. A few scrolls also decorated the walls. Naruto enjoyed the nice contrast to the outside coloring to the room's red wall coloring. Ow! What is this place? Naruto turned to look at the man who was smirking like a madman, as were the rest of the Azu shinobi. They had made the building while Naruto had been gone. It hadn't been easy, but they had some unlikely help. The lava monkeys arrived with the help of some of the Uzumaki summoners and quickly helped construct the tower for Naruto. Isn't it obvious? This is the Azukage's office. Naruto's eyes widened and he took a double take of the room, not believing it was his. Are you serious? How did you do all this in just a few short hours? Ao just shrugged and moved over to his desk, pulling the seat back for him playfully. We had some help. Please sit down while I discuss important news with you, Azuki-sama. Naruto smiled and nodded. He came up and sat in the cushioned chair and sighed as he finally took a break from standing. The rest of you leave us for now, please. Naruto ordered and the shinobi complied, bowing to him before leaving through the door. Naruto and Ao got right down to business when the one-eyed man pulled a scroll from his vest. He set it down on the desk and unfurled it for Naruto to read. The messengers you sent before you left have arrived with the requested signatures and assurances. I must say I was surprised at the outpouring of support. Ao noted as Naruto read the scroll that contained each village's leader's signature. Promise of trade and monetary support. Tazuna, land of waves. Sumeru, Yondaime Hoshikage, land of bears. Jericho Wasabi, land of tea. Haruna, land of vegetables. Mikaru, land of the moon. Shibuki, Shodai Takikage, land of the waterfalls. Promise of military support. Sumeru, Yondaime Hoshikage, land of bears. Shibuki, Shodai Takikage, land of the waterfalls. Mikaru, land of the moon. Naruto read it over again and was still stunned by the amount of signers his treaty request was given. Naruto had no idea any of these villages actually remembered him, let alone realized the gravity of the situation Azu no Kuni was in. This is wonderful, he whispered, unable to speak any louder lest he break the moment. I also finished reviewing those changes to our military you wanted me to look over. Other than those hurricanes, I have no problems with most of it. I'm mainly curious about it all though, so you will have to explain. Naruto nodded, he gestured for Ao to take a seat and they began to discuss the future of Azu's shinobi system. 0. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.